Okay?
I feel good. I feel natural.
Yeah. Am I popping if I speak right into it?
No.
Okay.
That's a very good mic. That's actually a rock band mic from the game Rock Band.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
So it's
funny.
good for Belton. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Long Form Conversations, the podcast where we talk about long form improv. Today, I have a guest who is very well known in the Los Angeles improv community. However, he does not wish to be known as an improviser. He's not a comedian. He's not even an actor. He's just a fellow human being occupying the spaces that we occupy. Everybody, please welcome PJ McCormick.
Hello, fellow organisms.
I think we should start there because that's like I asked you like, hey, like how do you like to be introduced? And you're like, I don't consider myself a comedian or an actor. What do you consider this art that you do? Are you an artist at least?
Yeah. I'm an artist. I like
PJ is
to
an
think of
artist.
myself as an artist. I hope that doesn't come across like too pretentious, but I think I've done a lot of different things in life, and I kind of have the artist mentality of like, you just do it. You do it to like its full potential, and until you don't love it anymore, and then you give it up, and then you move on to the next thing, and don't keep retreading the same ground, right? So
So
I,
you
I
think by calling yourself a improviser or comedian that kind of like limits your ability or like, kind of like cements what you're going to do?
I think it puts pressure on me. I don't like pressure.
Okay.
So like if I say I'm a comedian, like if you say you do comedy at a party, they like
Tell
tell
me
a
a
joke,
joke.
let me see your stand-up set. But like for me, like I don't want the expectation that I do funny, you know. Um because then it sets up the pressure of like, oh, okay, well, let's keep an ear out for funny things he says and does,
Mm-hmm.
when like it should be spontaneous,
And it
right?
doesn't always need to be funny. Sometimes your improv can take dramatic
Absolutely.
shape.
I love dramatic improv.
Yeah. So what we can say though is that you are on the UCB Herald team Lohan.
Mm-hmm.
You are one of the jam leaders of the One Big Jam.
Yeah.
That's Saturdays 5:30, right?
I wouldn't say leader, host.
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 Sure.
Because then it gets into, you know, uh
You're right.
non-democratic territory.
Correct. Yeah, leader is the wrong title for that. You're just a host for that, along with
Anarajo, Joe Fahey. Yeah, two
and then
good friends.
you also have a workshop coming up through Shared Experience Studio, right?
Yeah. I started doing the shared experience drop-in, and it's been really cool. Like it's been a lot of like emerging performers that are like coming up, usually mostly through like the UCB program, but like uh, I'm working on this school with James Mastriani, Dana Labasco, and Karen Bond, and just kind of like focusing on like the nuance of comedy, and like like when we do the drop in, I'm always like, don't try to be funny, like let's think about like being relatable here, and then like everyone just ends up being so funny on accident, and that's the kind of comedy I love.
I want to ask about a recent experience, and you can feel free to go into as much detail or as little detail as possible, but you were previously on Jet Set and there was a scramble a couple of months ago, and now you are kind of reconfiguring and kind of on a new team. You have some former team members, but you also have some new team members. What was that experience like?
It's always devastating when like you lose your scene partners, your teammates that you've been kind of grinding with for so long. Because Jet Set started in 2019, and then we got our 6-month run, and that was just like a run full of anxiety and nerves for me. But like the cool thing about that team was we felt like the fun fresh indie team, because like every year has that, And we got to be that for the 2019 season. So we were all kind of in it together. We were all fresh to Herald Night, and it's kind of like, like getting drafted to a war. Like, we're war buddies. We're going to go through this together and kind of deal with the nerves of this and the pressure of it all, because so many people deserve that spot, and we just happen to get it. And we probably had an experience that not many people can say that they've ever gone through, which is the 2.5 year layover from the pandemic. And, we didn't really keep in contact too much as a team. Every now and then we would talk, but I think we were all just kind of figuring out who we were outside of this community. And I was dealing with my own personal issues in the pandemic. And then once UCB, oh man, I remember when I got the email. I was at work at this like self-tape studio I work at, and I got the email that like, hey, Jet Set, like, we're coming back. And my heart almost like jumped out of my chest. I was not in excitement, but like, fuck, I'm going back. I have to do this again. And like, I had kind of like figured out like, okay, these are the things I want to pursue outside of comedy. Let me like embark in this new journey and start something new as like an artist would, right? Abandon the old and like in with the new. And then the old came back, and I likened it to, it's like your girlfriend breaking up with you, and then 2.5 years later she goes, okay, you know what, you can take me out on a date and we can date it some more, we can keep dating again. And it's like, I don't know if I want to, like, there was so much
You get some
that
distance
we were
from
dealing.
it.
Yeah, I've got so much distance from it now. And I was still practicing. I was doing Mastriani's drop-ins because I still loved improv,
Mhm.
So I was doing it like every week, but not performing. And like, I like practicing more than I do performing. Maybe it's changed a little bit more now that I've gotten more comfortable on stage, but yeah, like Jet Set, like we started hitting each other up, we started hanging out, working together again, and then we were just back on the stage. And then, 4 months go by, we get split up. I wasn't too distraught about it. I kind of thought it would happen because like first year teams don't typically stay together. And even teams that do stay together and keep their name, there are a couple switch ups that happen. So I was kind of preparing myself that we were going to get split up. I think the great thing is that no one got cut. And the way I view it is, oh, Jets, it's a good team. They work well. Let's spread the wealth and kind of share that experience with
So
other
that
teams.
instead of having one successful team, you can have like 4 or 5 successful teams.
Yeah, and I think that's good. I think
Mhm.
that's important because from Jet Set, there's like 3 new teams that kind of came
Mhm.
from it, and they get to share their experience with the experience of other people on those teams, and like the new people who are enjoying their first year. So I think that's a good thing. You should always pay it forward.
Mhm.
So I see that as a big thumbs up that no one got cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of that this weird 2.5 year break, a unique thing that I don't think anybody's gonna ever know what it's like to be in your shoes, but you are kind of one of the veterans now, even though like you mentioned it was a 6-month run than a 4-month run, but like more so than anybody, just because there's been so many teams that have been shaken up
Yeah.
and so many new people coming in
Yeah.
and graduated as well, so automatically you went from being one of the newest teams, people on Herald Night,
Yeah.
to all of a sudden, rocketed into like one of the more veteran members.
It's weird. It really is weird because it's technically my second year, and like you're
But
still
this is 4 years later.
4 years later. I'm on my sophomore year.
Mhm.
Um,
Man, we gotta repeat French a bunch of times.
yeah, I know. I hate romantic language.
Yeah,
But yeah, it is weird, you know. As much as I want to just like be like, no, I'm not. Yeah, I guess we kind of are because like Yeti Pony left,
Leroy.
Leroy, they all got graduated. So we kind of like come into that spot. I think like there's Bitchin, and then there's like
Ghost.
the other teams,
Mhm.
including Lohan. And I'm very grateful for it. You know, I think it's important, like when you get in that spot, to make the most out of it. And I think for me, like I just want it to feel welcoming.
Yeah, and I will say, as a relative newcomer to UCB, I think you and your peers, your class of improvisers, have done a really great job of doing that, of opening up and welcoming all of the new folks. Because
Yeah, like what has your experience been like since you started doing Monday nights?
It's been, for the most part, very great. I think, again, I don't know what it was like before, but we had that, all hands meeting, and
Yeah,
that was just really great, because just to see this
that
room
was
full
a
of
fun
people,
meeting.
that was a really
It
fun
was
meeting.
really fun.
There's pizza, there's drinks, and it was just like, to
I don't think
me.
there were officially drinks,
Oh,
but I
sorry.
was throwing beers out.
Well, but it was just really fun, and you could see like the room was just full of excitement. I think a lot of that is, again, it's always like the majority, right? Like if everyone in there is old, veteran, jaded, haggard, though, I would have been in there like, yeah, this is just a strict business meeting. Let's get out of here. But because everyone was so happy and so excited, you see there's a room full of people, like you mentioned. Everyone's been looking forward to this for years and years and years. So that is infectious. And I think even some of the people have been doing it before, they're just like, oh my gosh, this is like, rather than stifling that part of their energy, they were like able to freely let it out, to be like, I forgot this is fun. So that was all good. And then we had the mixture. So everyone has been very warm and open, which has been really great. But I think a lot of that is, like you mentioned, just changing it up, just a big change up, swiping things clean, as a fresh start, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like before the pandemic, it just felt like you constantly always had to prove yourself.
Mhm.
And I think there is still that element, because it is a competitive environment, even though it's meant to be like collaborative. It's still competitive. Like it's always going to be that way. That's just how it's just like nature.
I actually really want to dive into this when we talk about our topic of the week, because that is a important factor here. But I think we're gearing up. We're warmed up. We're already got drink deep. But let's go ahead and move on to our first topic. We're going to move on to
Improvster Syndrome.
So this is the topic, the segment where we're going to go over your improv journey, so people can hear kind of what you've been through and how you got to where you are now. And I already know a little bit about this, but I want to start at the very beginning, just like your performative of your comedy journey. Like starting as a kid, did you do any type of performing arts? Were you an athlete? Did you tell jokes, class clown?
Okay, like I didn't speak until I was 4. My mom told me. I was
First
a very
word?
quiet kid. Probably mom,
Okay.
because I grew up in England. I'm British, half Filipino, and so I was always a quiet kid. I used a lot of sign language in a way. Like I would non-verbally find ways to get what I want.
Yeah, 4 is pretty more advanced. Do you have recollections of that?
No, I don't remember that, but yeah, she said that my mom told me like they would have like counselors or like child development like people come over to kind of work with me and try to get me to speak, and I just wouldn't talk. I knew how to get what I wanted by communicating physically.
Mhm.
So I've always been a physical person. I would just point at things, or I would kind of like use
Yeah.
I would use like signs, to get what I wanted. And then the first time I remember making someone laugh, I was in the Philippines visiting my mom's side of the family, and my uncle had really bad breath, and I kept like making like just like big, just like, oh, pew wee kind of faces. And I remember taking a doily and putting it over my nose and like trying to block out the smell of his breath. And the entire room of my cousins were just like cracking up laughing, this
Roasting your
this
uncle.
piece of shit kid. Yeah. Making fun of this adult. And I specifically remember that. And I was just like the funny kid. And then I remember, I think my first time like really getting into comedy was I would watch the morning announcements. We had like a closed circuit television station in high school. And the morning announcements, it featured like the head quarterback of our football team, this like incredibly attractive, muscular guy, and then like this other like attractive girl. And I like all these like cool people, and they would do inside jokes with each other on the morning announcements when they were like, oh, today we're doing macaroni salad in the cafeteria. But the inside jokes were between them. We didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. So we're just like, duh, what are you saying?
Yeah.
And that
It's
was
like, Andrea, don't add pepper to that macaroni salad.
He's like, I know you love pepper, girl. Yeah.
And everyone's like, what's going on?
This? Yeah, this is stupid.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is my first like foray into like what a shared experience is. I thought, well, it's okay to have inside jokes. The inside joke should be the whole school is in on it.
Should include the audience.
Exactly. So I applied to be on the morning announcements. I did like my application was like me doing a report on like my shitty Chevy Lumina 1990 car. And then I was like, just like going over the features of this car that my dad got me. And then like someone like threw me in the trunk and sped off, and I got kidnapped live on camera as a reporter.
So it was like a sketch.
Yeah, I did a sketch.
Interesting. So your impetus for wanting to perform came from wanting to outdo the captain of the football team.
Seeing a theme here.
That competitiveness. And so before that, you hadn't done sketch before, or were you also doing like plays or?
No, not really.
Interesting. So just to see that like there's a better way, like.
Yeah, like let's create inside jokes and then let's keep recurring them. So then
you put yourself out there. Did they pick you?
Yeah, I got on.
Oh, yeah.
And there was another girl on it, Megan Holland. She's just like this beautiful girl, and she was on the like local news station. It was American Idol, but it was Houston Idol.
Oh, cool.
And so she got on for like singing, so she was like the popular girl. And so I wanted to basically like pull an Anchorman, like Ron Burgundy, and I'm in love with my co-anchor on air.
Like that was my
inside
joke for everybody.
Yeah, that was my character game. So like every time we were on camera together, I would like bring her a little present, or like I would like ask her on a date. And then we even like the very last episode, like we went on the date at the Cheesecake Factory, and it was like a disaster. Like it was bad. And then like,
was it sincere, or was this an act?
It was an act, and then like it actually became bad because my friend Nick Murphy was the server, and we shot it in the studio, and he kept bringing out the wrong food, and I got frustrated at him, and like I slapped him, and then like as I slapped him, I hit her on the head, and then she got up and stormed off.
Oh my god!
And I was like, oh god. And then my teacher, he was like, yeah, we're running out of time, we have to air this. So then like the thing that aired on TV was like me slapping my friend and hitting Megan in the head, and then her storming off, and that was the last morning announcement of my career.
Honestly, everything on game, even the slap,
on air.
It was an accident, of course, but she reacted at the top of her intelligence. I love it. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean it's a very fuck me type game, right?
Yeah,
which is good. It's just bad optics. But anyway, so from that, at the time I was doing that, I was also professional wrestling.
Now, how'd you get into this though? Like this is don't just sneak that in there.
I know, it's weird. I think.
Well, actually, let's run back really quick. What year of high school? Is this like sophomore year, junior year?
This was when I started wrestling.
No, the
senior year was when I was doing the announcements. I started wrestling junior year.
So this is separate.
This is separate.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a bit of a double life in high school. So I just grew up like I kind of like got into wrestling during the Attitude Era with like Stone Cold, The Rock, Hardy Boys, Mick Foley, um, and like it just seems so fucking creative and amazing to me. It- there's nothing like it. It and so like I watched the Hardy Boys versus Edge and Christian ladder match at No Mercy 1998, I want to say,
Mhm.
and I was like, I want to do that. And I'm the type of personality when I see something really, really cool, I'm like, I'm gonna try it. And so when I was 14, I drove, I I got my friend's dad to drive me to a wrestling school because I was backyard wrestling. I had a huge like square trampoline in my backyard, and I like built turnbuckles but
Mhm.
no ropes, so it was super dangerous.
Yeah.
And we would put on wrestling matches, and I would jump off the roof and go through tables. And I was trying to be like Mick Foley and Jeff Hardy. And I was like very extreme, high flying, hardcore type wrestler when I was backyard wrestling. And then I wanted to like, well, let me see if I can do it. And I was 14 years
Who
old,
would you do this for?
just in my back. I was just like with a camcorder.
You
Like
just
me and
you'd
my
film it.
friends,
You'd
we would
film
film
it.
ourselves wrestling full matches, and I would watch them over and over again, studying tape.
And you wouldn't like there was no YouTube back then.
Yeah.
So really it was just for
It
the
was
love
just
of the
for
game.
me. Yeah.
And where
And you know what's crazy? My dad, he was a very, very intelligent man.
Mhm.
And he's like an engineer, and he hated wrestling, and I was not allowed to watch wrestling when he
Mhm.
was in the house. And so like when he would come home after a long day of work, he would watch TV, but on the VCR there was a little red light, and I was recording SmackDown on
Mhm.
UPN because we didn't have cable
Mhm.
growing up. And I was recording SmackDown, just like hoping and praying that he wouldn't see the red light. And one
Mhm.
time he caught me, but like he was adamant, you will not watch this garbage. Go read a book. Do something productive with your life. This is filth. This is trash. This is a
Wow.
bad influence on you. Because it was the Attitude Era. It kind of was.
And just so people, just to give people some context, just to frame this story, I don't think people, nowadays what your relationship to wrestling might be, but like in the 80s and 90s, the chokehold, that professional wrestling had on adolescent boys was huge.
Yeah.
We're talking prime time slots, like 3-4 days out of the week.
Late night, late 90s.
Yeah.
Like 80s, it was the corny era
Okay.
with Hulk Hogan,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Macho Man Randy
Yeah.
Savage, like very like kind of detached, weird caricatures. But then in the late 90s, that's when you saw like the rise of like Stone Cold.
Mhm.
It was like Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. It was kind of like an element of like realism with
Mhm.
wrestling, and so you were kind of
It was like
rooting
a
for
reality
normal
show.
people. It was very Jerry Springer.
And I would even say that, like, yeah, in the past, maybe you could, like, we all know now wrestling's fake, but maybe in the 80s, you'd be like, yeah, we know this is fake. But in the 90s, especially for young kids, we would watch that and we
Mhm.
would think, no, this is the real deal, because they shot it like docu-series style. It was like a reality show. So
Yeah.
in the same way that you could watch, Survivor and be like, this is real.
Yeah.
Or Keep Up the Kardashians or whatever, like Vanderpump Rules, this is real. Young
Yeah,
kids would
yeah.
watch wrestling and think this is real.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like kids would keep, like, you think it's hard now to know what streaming service to watch, whatever. Kids would know what channels to watch, what times for what, because
Yeah.
we knew the next day we'd be talking about, dude, did you
You
see
have
that
to
fight?
watch it live. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you knew what to talk about the next day at school.
Mhm. So I just wanted to like frame that. So like for you to want to do that, I don't think is unusual. And for your dad also to like recognize, like now looking back, like your dad was, trying to hopefully like be a good parent, right?
Yeah. He was looking out for me. He wanted me to be like an engineer or something, but
yeah. But
he knew I wasn't like that.
But I want to ask you, since now knowing what we know about wrestling and also hearing about all the trauma that it can do to their bodies,
Mhm.
at that point, did you know it was fake, and did you know how to do this safely and responsibly, or no?
I would watch like home videos, and they would talk in kayfabe.
Mm-hmm.
Kayfabe means like where we're talking in terms of it being a performance,
Mhm.
And I think I kind of realized eventually, like, oh, this is not real. Like, these are planned. This is like orchestrated. So watching those home videos, I kind of like realized, oh, I can like call a match. And that's when I started backyard wrestling. I was like, let's do this. So I was like directing my friends to like put on these like big elaborate matches
Yeah.
where it's like by the end of it, like I want to jump off the roof, you know?
But you at the same time, like when you're like throwing people or breaking them through tables, like you knew to like saw through the tables and make everything.
Yeah. Like I use like heavy cardboard, so it didn't even break my fall. I was like literally doing swanton bombs straight to the ground, like because it was like duct taped to two ladders, the cardboard.
Oh, got it.
So like I was taking like big bumps at a young age.
Yeah.
And I get my first car, that Chevy Lumina that got me the morning announcements. And the first week the week that I got my car, the very first weekend, Saturday morning, I drove straight to Minute Maid Park, where Tugboat Taylor School of Professional Wrestling was, and I signed up to take classes there. And I trained every Tuesday, Thursday night, and every Saturday morning, 3 hours training wrestling. And it was like, you know, you start with like physical stuff, like we would do weight training, then we do cardio, and then we would get in the ring, and then we would do the wrestling part. And you start with amateur wrestling, so a lot of like takedowns, learning how to like go from like a referee position and like, you know, like switch under and like take people down, grappling. Like you had to learn the real wrestling first, and then you get into the moves, which is like what I wanted to do. So then I would like learn how to run the ropes, take a bump, slowly like graduate up to like taking a front flip bump. But because I had done like trampoline wrestling, I already knew how to do all the high flying stuff. So I was doing swanton bombs, over the rope dives, like suicide dives, like immediately. I was very like, I was pretty athletic when I was young. I wasn't like crisp, but I was willing to take risks. And so then that led to me refereeing matches at the VFW Hall in Cypress, Texas. I would wrestle in like the most like bumfuck towns when I was a kid. I was a child wrestling in these like tiny towns with like
grown men.
After that, I really enjoyed doing the announcements. I got burnt out because of all the hazing and bullying. It was a really toxic culture in wrestling back then. And I went to school and I did broadcast journalism. Because I was doing the announcements, but also because George Carlin and David Letterman, they went to school for broadcast journalism.
So is this what kind of awoken your interest into comedy? Like,
yeah, I've always been into comedy. Like I grew up on British comedies, like
British Who's Line.
Yeah, definitely.
Steve Coogan.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Laurie. Fry and Laurie.
Yep, absolutely. Yes, Alan Partridge, British Office with Ricky Gervais, Stephen Merchant, Monty Python, of course. Like other things like Keeping Up Appearances, Mrs. Bucket, One Foot in the Grave, like all that just rich, dry British humor.
Was your dad into that? Was that stuff he was okay with?
That was it. Yeah, me and my dad, the only two things we bonded over were British comedies and the Beatles. That's it. And that it's always been important to me because comedy has always been a way of like connecting with my dad, you know. And when I started the broadcast journalism program, the head of the department, she asked me, I had my initial meeting with her when I entered the program. She goes, what are your goals? What do you want to do? And I said, I really want to go to New York and pursue like work on a comedy show, get an internship at a comedy show and work my way up. That's what I said to her. And
your guidance counselor?
Yeah, like the head of the department, the one that like will help you get a job. Exactly.
And for her, she's probably used to placing people at like news stations.
Yeah, in like Wichita Falls or you know, small towns like that where you get your start, and then hopefully you end up in Houston or Dallas.
This request was like not only out of the ordinary, but kind of like,
yeah, I was just like, I want to work in comedy in New York City. She goes, you have as much of a chance as anyone else here to get to New York.
Yeah.
And I was livid when I heard that. I was like, how are you going to say that to a kid who's like being vulnerable and telling you like, this is what I want to do?
It's like a soft denial, basically.
It was,
saying,
I don't, big time.
Yeah, like, hey, good luck. I don't want to help you, or I can't help you.
She didn't give a fuck about me. No, she had her favorites, and I was always the outcast, which has always been a theme in my life. And So I like kind of like made that my goal. I was gonna like shove it in her face. And I did I worked on my reel. I created this like puppet show, and I thought like I did pretty well.
Yeah.
And that I sent out my resume to 5 different people: David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, Daily Show, um, I think The Onion, and Howard Stern Show. And Howard Stern Show got back to me,
Yeah.
and then they offered me an internship because I would hound him. I would hound Sean Gordon over at Howard TV every every 7 days. I would hit him up like, "Hey,
Like
did you look at my
over email
resume?"
or over phone?
Phone, email, everything. And then eventually he was like, "All right, fine, you can come." And I remember telling my counselor, like, "Hey, I got this internship." He goes, "Congratulations, I'm very happy for you." And that was it. There was like no moment of like, "Aha, see what I did in your face." It was just, "Oh, I got what I wanted." There was no hard feelings. Okay, well, thank you for everything here. And then I just went to New York City,
Yeah.
and I worked at the Howard Stern Show, and I was an intern. And uh, I I started writing jokes there. I mean, that place is pretty fucking. I could go on about like what it was like working there. It was wild, and it was um I learned a lot being there. And then Howard TV ended. I got laid off along with everyone else, even the executive producer of Howard TV. So then I came to LA. I was kind of lost. My dad had just passed away. Like, there was a lot going on.
What brought you to come to LA rather than to stay in New York or to move back to Texas?
My best friend, in high school and my college roommate, he was out here. He was doing uh he was like he was doing like fitness stuff. He was working at like Go Tribe, where like all the UCB people were working out for like once upon a time. And those are kind of dark times for me. I was definitely like depressed. And I finally got like a full-time job because I was delivering weed for like 2 years. And then I got a job, like some assistant editing job. I hated it. And I started like just going to UCB shows because I when I started writing jokes at Howard Stern, I went to see a UCB show and Amy Poehler showed up, and I was like, "This is fucking amazing! This is incredible."
So at this point, when you moved to LA, you're kind of just going through the LA motions,
Just wandering
didn't know what you wanted
aimlessly,
to do,
yeah,
just looking for a job, trying to pay rent.
yeah. Which I'm still like that now, but like,
Picking back up. So you said you started going to see some UCB shows just to entertain yourself, I suppose.
yeah. So I I had I had a lisp up until I was like 27, 28. I couldn't pronounce my R's. I don't know what it was, but like it was the mixture of like coming from England and having all these different influences on my accent. And I guess I just never developed that pull back of the tongue that helps you pronounce the R. My tongue was weak and it couldn't do it because I never did it. So my R's sounded like W's, wah, instead of And I was always self-conscious. Like, that was one of the things I would get bullied about. Like I had like, I don't know what it's called.
I used to date a speech language pathologist.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know the name, but there's a specific name for that. And there's things that you can do to strengthen that part of your tongue if you didn't develop it as a child.
So that's what I did. Like, I started watching UCB shows. I would go watch Sentimental Lady every Saturday because I had a full-time job, and I would study like Susie Barrett and like Johnny Meeks and all of them, Alex Berg. And I used my insurance that I had at this assistant editing job, and I went and saw a speech pathologist every week. And we would do tongue strengthening exercises for me to actually pronounce the R's. So like, she would give me like this, like, it looked like the rubber grip on a pencil, and I would have to put that under my tongue and like roll it around my mouth, and like a lot of like the clucking sounds. Like, I would have to push my tongue up to the roof of my mouth. I had to teach myself to put the tip of my tongue to that little nub at like behind your front teeth and like hold it there, because I also had like a jet, like my tongue would jet out and push my front teeth out. Because like I would be like slack jawed a lot. I kind of presented myself slack jawed. And so like for a whole year, it was just like sentimental lady and speech therapy. And then eventually I felt confident in my pronunciation. And then I signed up for my first one-on-one class. But without going into too much detail, my brother-in-law was up to no good. And got to the point where he accused my mom of murdering my dad. And I can't really go into details about it, but that always stuck with me. And so like after my dad passed, a couple years go by, and I saw him again in Texas when I went back and visited, and I just punched him in the face and I broke his jaw. And he filed charges, and I was arrested, and I went to jail in Texas. I got bailed out the next day, and obviously very difficult for my family, but I had already signed up for UCB 101 in Los Angeles, and it started a week later. So I got bailed out. We got this dipshit dumb fuck asshole attorney. I want to say his name, but I'm afraid of that. This fucking,
he's litigious.
This disbarred motherfucker.
Oh, he's disbarred? Say his
yeah,
name
he was
then.
disbarred.
That's okay.
I don't know. Anyway, he lived on our blog, and he was like, I'll represent you. And he was an estate attorney, and he was going to represent me for a criminal trial. Yeah. So I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never been to jail, nothing like that. So I just said, okay. And he told me to just every 2 months come back to Texas and we'll reset your case. And so, you know, after I was bailed out, a week later, I start UCB 101 with Matt Newell. And I'm trying to be funny, but I also have this felony that I'm dealing with in Texas. So every 2 months, I would go back to Texas, show up to court, put on a nice suit, reset the case over and over and over again every 2 months.
So really quick, can you explain what that means to reset the case?
Basically, this dumb fuck attorney was like, he was like, this is a family dispute. We can like drag it out in court, and then they're going to drop it eventually, which is bullshit.
I don't think, I was about to say.
It's lazy.
Yeah.
And so I just kept doing that. And then 1 month he told me, hey, look, you don't have to come back this month. I'll talk to the judge. Don't worry about it. I was like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, I got it. So I don't show up to court, and I become a fugitive. And I was in Alexburg 401 improv class, and I was in sketch 201, and I was also doing boot camp. And then all of a sudden I'm leaving my girlfriend's apartment to go to my sketch 201 class, and a SUV pulls up in front of me, followed by another car, and then a guy jumps out and pulls a gun out on me, and he goes, are you Patrick John McCormick? I go, yeah. Oh God. And I thought I was being robbed in Westwood. Yeah. By like these two white guys. And he put his gun away, he holstered it. He goes, oh, okay. Well, I have to arrest you. And he arrested me, and he like sat me down because I was having a panic attack. And he goes, you're not usually the type of person we arrest. Meaning I wasn't like a black or Hispanic guy.
You think that's what he meant?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, because I went to.
Well, then why would he ask you? Like, that's so crazy. Are you Patrick? He's like, oh, geez. I thought you were going to say no.
Yeah. Oh, he said I was going to run. And I was just like,
Yeah.
no, please don't hurt me. And so he was reluctant to like take me to jail, but
He was a bounty hunter or a U.S. Marshal, or what was
U.S.
it?
Marshal.
U.S. Marshal.
Yeah.
So he was like in uniform.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Oh no, he was like plain clothes, but he
Plain
was
clothes.
like, he had his gun at, he pointed a gun at me.
Yeah.
And so then I went to Twin Towers downtown. I was held there for a week, and then they transferred me up to Wayside Supermax, which was the name of my indie team when I got out. Um, and then I got extradited back to Texas, and then I got bailed out again, and we paid something like $20,000-$30,000 for a new attorney here in LA to get me through the judicial process of like extraditing me. And then and I had an attorney who basically got the case dismissed, like, and actually got the case dismissed.
Actually did the work instead of just
Actually did
hitting
it.
the snooze button on it.
And the attorney ghosted me, just never talked to me
The old
again.
one.
Yeah, the old guy, the piece of shit,
Mhm.
just ghosted me. And I found out he was disbarred, and he was taking advantage of me. And I found out that he did the same thing to his nephew.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that was my journey. And then when I came back to
all
LA,
the while you were taking UCB classes, you were checking in every 2 months to reset the case.
And I had to that week I was going to start my internship, and I thought like my whole world came crashing. I was like, oh my god, I'll never do improv again. I love this.
Oh, internship at UCB.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And got out. UCB gave me my internship back.
How long was this ordeal?
I was in Wayside for 34 days.
Okay.
In a level 7, which is pretty bad. Again,
for skipping on bail, that's the charge?
Because I was fugitive for a violent felony offense.
Right. Okay.
So I was in there with like gang members,
similar people who are fugitives on violent offenses.
Yeah. Like one of the guys I was closest with, he's serving a life sentence right now. Juicy. So I mean, that's another story. That's a whole thing. But yeah, I got out and then came back, started doing boot camp. That was surreal because I was not used to being in general public, like being around people. I was I had PTSD when I got out, because I was always scared I was going to get arrested again as the police sirens go by. And so I was dealing with PTSD. I did my first audition for Mess Hall, got on Bomb Pop. It was a great team, good team. James Mastriani was my coach. And for my first show, I showed up with my suitcase. I did my set. It was Sunday night in the Inner Sanctum, did my set, got off stage, grabbed my suitcase, and Joe Fahey dropped me off at LAX so I could show up to court in Texas the next morning at 9 a.m. Which is crazy.
Yeah. So this is like all the while you're trying to focus on game, and
which is hard enough.
It's just hard enough. But then you have this whole like legal odyssey hanging over your head.
And
yeah,
I was in a new relationship at the time, and that was its own thing. And like it was a pretty crazy period in my life. And then once I got out, I just loved improv so much. I just kept doing it full time. It didn't work. I was just like jobless, just doing improv, racking up debt, so bad that I declared bankruptcy because I had amassed so much debt from just like doing improv nonstop. I have an obsessive personality.
Yeah. So you
very
got obsessed
obsessive
with improv.
Yeah.
That was gonna be your new thing.
Yeah, that was like my everything. That kind of led to Herald Night, and that's kind of where I'm at now. So that's I guess that's my journey.
And I guess I could say probably one of the most harrowing improv journeys that we're likely to hear, especially on this podcast. But
I don't think anyone's been through something like that. fuck it, I deserve it. I deserve it.
Yeah, you had to overcome a lot.
A lot. And there's like
uh,
other things too. I don't even bring up, but just like it was a difficult time. It was a very difficult journey to get to Herald Night. And like, Herald Night, it's temporary, it's whatever, but it's still an honor to be there. And a lot of incredible people have gone through that.
I think it just goes to show, like you mentioned, like how like absorbed, how taken you were by improv, how dedicated and persistent you were. I think for anybody, like any one of these things would have been like a game changer, get showstopper to be like, hey, I'm gonna stay in Texas for a while until this gets sorted out.
Yeah.
But for you to continue to, I mean, even right then and there, like the fact that you're traveling, every 2 months to Texas, that's not cheap. That's not convenient. That's hard.
Why he's had to declare bankruptcy.
Yeah.
It broke me. Yeah. But like, I just kept going at it. And, I'll say like the best advice I ever got was when I was a kid, my sister, Linda, she asked me, what did I want to do with my life? And I was like, I want to be a wrestler. And she was like, just like a throwaway line. She goes, well, if you want something bad enough, you'll do whatever it takes to get it. And like, I've lived by that mantra my entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was your, if you ain't first, you're last. That was your Talladega moment, Ricky Bobby moment, huh?
Yeah.
Where you're like, you have to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, truly. Yeah. And obviously don't hurt people along the way.
All right. So if you were to sum up, your general advice, taking this all in, because I'm sure not everybody's going to go through the same journey that you did, but I'm pretty sure everyone's kind of dealing with their own trials and tribulations. We all have our own unique experiences. And if they're kind of struggling with, getting through these classes, struggling with like finding a reason to stay in this community, what would you have to say to them?
You're unique. You are unique in your own way. Everyone's unique in their own way. And what makes an improv team so great is it's like 5, 8, whatever unique personalities coming together, creating something that's never been done before. And if we're just talking about the improv format, right? So like different voices, like it's all valid, like no one's better than anyone. Just in improv, in comedy, in life, anything, no species, whatever. Just everyone's unique and just accept it.
It's a very good sentiment. It's also a really good segue into our main topic of the week now. So we're going to go ahead and pivot over to our next segment, which is our topic of the week. And what we decided we want to talk about today is going to be networking and relationships in improv. And as you bring up all these different communities, obviously a natural pivot point here. But before we jump into this, I know you've been in the community for a long time and you've seen a lot of people come and go and everything. What I wanted to mention first, and I want to speak to, is just getting started and how it can be so much. You kind of mentioned that like UCB has kind of stood as this hierarchical, focal point for a lot of people. And then within that, you have all these little kingdoms, right? These little communities that people can join. And it's the lot.
Hyrule Castle.
Yeah.
And then you have Gerudo Town.
Yeah, all the little
Zona Village.
Can explore. And it can be a lot to navigate when you first come off, especially if you don't have anybody to talk to and ask about it. So first thing I think I'll say is that like you should find people that are in any community and ask them, because it does take a long time to get situated. But after a while, people know, like everybody knows UCB and kind of what that structure looks like. Everybody knows we just Hailed Experience, Shed Experience, right? After a while, these names become more and more familiar to you, although at first it's just like a laundry list. But if you talk to somebody, if you want to ask me, happy to break it down for you. But even if once you do know the landscape, I would still say it's very tough. It's very challenging to meet people.
Mm-hmm.
So when we first met years and years ago, you were working at the Inner Sanctum Cafe.
I think you had blonde hair. Yeah.
And I was still like taking classes and stuff like that. And for me, it was very difficult because I always wanted to fit in and find the community. I would be at UCB every weekend. I'd be sipping coffee, writing sketches, just hoping like see familiar faces just to, because they say like, it takes a couple, I think it takes like, I need to look this up. I'll put it in the little caption, but it's like, it takes like 100 hours before people like really starts to recognize you,
Yeah.
So obviously if that's work, that's like, 100 hours, that's like a month. Perfect. But if you're talking about UCB classes or even just seeing them at shows, it takes a long time to build it up.
And money.
Yeah. Even at that point, even though, $4 lattes every weekend is still going to add up.
Yeah. And then you got to tip me.
And yeah, that's right. I got to tip this guy. But it's a lot of time and money. So some constants you'll find. So I think I want to say like, thank you. You were a constant for me, even though you were working there, you had no choice but to be there. But it was nice to just see a familiar face and to make pleasant conversation, every weekend.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. The good thing about working at the cafe is I kind of saw myself as like an unofficial ambassador in a way. I didn't have to be, but like, I think it's important. And like, if you were in that position, like you try to make people feel welcome, even if it's someone that you're probably going to leave in 2 months once you get that improv credit on your resume. But like, I do want people to feel welcome. And that honestly truly does mean a lot, that like you kind of remember that because that feels like so long ago. I kind of forgot about that. Yeah. But I would try to have like conversations with people when they came down, because it is stressful. Like you're putting a lot of vulnerability on the line every time you step out in those classes and practice groups. Like you're exposed, you know, and sometimes you say and do something that like maybe isn't you. And we want to present ourselves in the best way possible. So like, it's okay to fuck up. It's okay to like be nervous. It's okay to be intimidated. I'm intimidated all the time by people, whether they're veterans or new. And I'm like, oh my God, they're so good. How are they so good? But really, like, it's the same thing that I say at the jam. Like, if you're making everyone look good, we all look good. If you're making everyone feel welcome, you're welcome. And I remember you coming down and talking to you in the Inner Sanctum Cafe. I also remember, I think you did boot camp. Did you jump into boot camp? I remember practicing with you.
We did some of the match training workshops together.
Is that like in the pandemic?
Yeah.
Was your hair blonde then too? Yeah. And that was just like boot camp. Like I used to do like 12 to 2 every day in boot camp with all my friends. That was like a very influential time. I think during the pandemic, like that was another influential time where we didn't have shows to look forward to. It was literally just like us and people who loved this in the pandemic. Like there was no one padding their resume out in 2021.
Yeah.
Everyone was there because they loved it. And I remember you being there, Anza Bolts being there. That's when Lindsay Frank and I became really good friends. And like I can see it. I can see like, oh wow, you're passionate and I'm passionate, and like we get to be passionate about this together. And like if we're in a community and we're all passionate about it, it's a healthy community. It's a good community to be a part of.
It'll help people find each other a little bit easier as well.
Exactly. And we're all cogs in a machine.
I want to start kind of at the beginning, because you kind of mentioned that our friend was out here doing comedy. I assume, or
my friend Nick Murphy.
Yeah.
No, he was just like dicking around.
So like at that point, like I talking about the relationships that you build and the network you build, I think it all starts in that class level. Sometimes people come with a friend, sometimes they start and make friends. But what was your experience like? Did you make friends with your classmates? Did you have consistent classmates as you went through the class?
Yeah, Joe Fahey. Joe Fahey, Alex Lewis, Justin Patterson, my best friend Nick Murphy, who's no longer in the community. like those are my best friends from this community. I didn't like Joe when I first met him. I thought he was like hacky. But that is me being pretentious and like being judgmental because he brought a different energy than what I wanted to bring. And then it turns out his energy complements my energy so well. He is my improv husband. I am his improv husband. And I mean, I was straight up like on Herald Night when they asked like if we wanted to come back. I was like, I want to come back with Joe. I don't want to do Herald Night without Joe. Like it's a really special thing when you find someone who you just resonate with.
Yeah.
I love Joe. Alex Lewis, same thing. Justin Patterson. Like just like pretty much like that boot camp era. Like me and those guys in the upstairs boot camp, just like laughing at like how bad our improv sets were, not giving a fuck about being good. That is what improv is all about. It's just like just accepting this is a bad scene and committing as hard as you can, not to make the audience laugh, but that like Larry David mentality of I'm not trying to make them laugh, I'm trying to make you laugh in the back, the person who no one knows is there, my friend. And that's when you have the most fun, because it's nothing like bombing a set on purpose.
It's like, and finding people, because like all growth is about failure, and it's like finding people that you can fail with, I think, is the most important thing.
It's so important. Failure is learning. Like you don't truly fail, you learn. And it's fun when other people embrace your failure and you embrace theirs. So you got to like find the right people who like you can fail in front of, and they're like, yeah, I know you're better than that, don't worry about it.
And did you meet these folks 101, 201?
Boot camp mostly. Joe and I, Alex Lewis and I, we started in 101, but he went on to become a fucking viral sensation. So he does a lot of like musical comedy now. He's on Lou Berger. This great like comedy musical band. One of my best friends. And then Joe Fahey, we started in Improv 401 with Nick Mananock, and he just got on my nerves. And then we ended up in another class together, a Will Hines 401. And then I was like, okay, I feel like my best scenes are with him. This is weird. And then like we just kept practicing together, and then he like showed up in boot camp, and then we did a practice group together, and that turned into like my first like good like big indie team, Wayside Supermax. And then we were just like pretty much inseparable.
I think that's important to like bring up, because the population at UCB is just so large and so random. I don't think, and if more power to if you did, but I think it's hard to find that person or find people you can connect with or you feel comfortable around in your classes, because it's a grab bag. It's just literally whoever is free at that time, registered in time, and had $500 lying around.
I know. I mean, look, I'll be honest. You're gonna get better outside of those classes. Those classes are great for foundational work, and also connecting with people, because you kind of meet people randomly. And like I booked a commercial because the writer was on set for this thing I was doing background on, and he like bumped me up to principal actor because we were in a Will Hines 401 class together. You know, the connections you make is so important. Like majority of my opportunities that I have now came from improv. And getting a practice group, being consistent with it, like Glass Clown, you guys are coached by like Dana. That is going to help you find your voice, because you're going to be working on that voice with other people finding their voice, and you create that group voice. And you just start being undeniable. You ever showed up to a show and you're like, yeah, I'm good. Like it's a good feeling. And hopefully that inspires other people to get to that point too. But you got to put the work in and connect with people and like find who you resonate with, because you're not going to resonate with everyone.
So you went there every day, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. How long until
On top of practice.
On top of practice, how long until you recognize, like, hey, Justin, you're funny. Can I get your Facebook or whatever? Can we, like, do you want to meet up extracurricular?
It's just we would like talk out because it was at the clubhouse. So we would always just like kind of after practice, we would just like goof off after and just like stand on the street and just make fun of each other and goof around. And then eventually like, it's like, do you want to do this show? Like, oh, fuck yeah. I would love to.
Another really important factor to bring up, like, and I'm guilty of this back in the day. I didn't think about this, but you should probably meet before class, meet after class, leave room. I know a lot of people sometimes, as soon as the class is over, they're like, oh, I gotta run, and then they stick around for that mingling afterwards. Like, it is a lot of relationships are built like in the post show or post class mingle,
hang out. Like, you really got to get to know the individual that you're playing with, like on a personal level, because you want to know like what their experience is, and like it's a non-tangible thing. Like when you connect with someone, and that comes from having like vulnerable moment. Like Justin and I, we would go on hikes and just like I don't know if you know Justin Patterson, but he's so fucking weird and goofy, and just like sometimes you're just like, I don't know if he's like being serious or not. He's just so weird. But then we would have like moments where we get away from the community and go on a hike and just share like our like most vulnerable moments.
So I guess like that important takeaway there is just like, maybe because improv is weirdly, some people see it maybe as like a job thing, maybe it's a recreational thing, maybe it's a social thing, but like in order to find people that you do want to play with, it is, I will my personal experience, you got to lean on the social side. You got to like each other as friends. You got to be able to like get a drink or get dinner together, because if you can't do that, then like, even if you're the world's best improviser, if I have a choice of like, hey, David, I have a show I need to book, you have 5 other people you want to bring, I'm not going to go to, let me ask the best improviser I ever met. I'm going to let me think about the 5 improvisers that I want to get a beer with before.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's kind of weird, but it is like weirdly, and it also results in better improv, because you get me the world's best improviser. If I don't know them, we're just going to be on guard around one another.
Yeah.
Versus you get me, again, 5 people that I've played with for years or just get along with. We're going to be loose and easy.
And this is coming from like, I'm a very, I've always been a bit of a loner. I've always been a very secluded person. I'm very private. And like, there's something about this like social culture of this community that we're in. Like it brings out the social nature of me. But otherwise, like my perfect day is staying at home, but the thing that gets me off the couch and out of bed is going to practice, going to shows, seeing my friends perform and create, collaborate together.
And like it weirdly, I think it also builds momentum. Like, I don't say that you need to find like a perfect team now. If it happens, great, but like start off with just that one buddy, you know, that one buddy in class you like, and you'll start to see shows together. And there's this weird effect. I don't know what it is. I'm sure there's some psychologists can explain it, but like talking to, let's just say it was after a show and I see you, I won't tell you have a good set. Me walking up to you, I think is tough, right? Like one-on-one, hey, how's it going? Good set. Maybe I might walk away. But there's 2 of us for some reason. It's just like, hey man, we saw your show. Great job. And then we'll stick and we'll actually linger and we'll talk and we'll form a stronger bond. And if that person knows you already, or if I know you already, it just makes that whole interaction go by smoother.
It's like a vetting process, right? Like, oh yeah, okay, like we can all talk.
Like, oh, you have a friend, so I know at least this person likes you.
I can open up. I'll let you in.
And then that becomes 3 becomes 4, right? I think it's and then like, again, I know it's weird, but it's like it's almost like I'm explaining how to make friends. But in improv, it is kind of that you kind of do need to make friends in order to form practice groups, to form teams, and to book shows.
I don't remember who said it, but someone said like you just got to be two of three things. You either got to be really good, you either got to be really nice, or you show up.
Yeah.
If you're just two of those, you're good. People will want to play with you.
Yeah.
So if you're not good, just be really nice and show up.
Yeah.
If you're not nice, be really good and show up.
Yeah,
you know?
I like that. That is funny. All right. Well, yeah, I think we kind of talked about a lot. And again, sorry to sum it up to just be like, hey, be around for a long time. But I really like the way that you summed it up, just again, show up, be nice, be good. I don't know which of those two you're gonna, take to the most. So do all three. And I don't think there's any, it's not hard.
Strive for it. Yeah. Why
Yeah.
not? But like,
Tom Hanks
don't be
does it.
bad if you're lacking in one. Don't feel bad if you're lacking in one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe be self-conscious if you're lacking in being nice. But for the rest, it's like, okay, you're going to have your days where you can't show up, or
Yeah.
like maybe you mentally can't show up. Take a day off,
Mhm.
take a week off, whatever you need to emotionally and mentally get through your personal life.
Yeah.
Don't let the pressure of like performing and being impressive weigh down on your personal life. And then also, just like being good, like like you're gonna have off nights.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to just bring up. Like, I don't want people to watch or listen to this podcast and be like, oh, I have to be obsessed with, I do all this, all the blah, blah, blah. I forgot to mention at your own pace. And again, like, so it takes some people 6 months. Wow, good for them. It takes some people 4 years. Oh, that doesn't mean that's bad or whatever.
Takes people 9.
Some people take them 9 years.
11.
It's all they're different. They're all different experiences. And I think, honestly, like, find the people that think you're showing up is enough. Like, if you can do it once a week and they're like, that's plenty.
Yeah.
Find those people. Find the people that, even if you're kind of a jerk, like, dude, this guy's a really nice guy. Find those people. And then lastly, like, if they think you're good, man, that's your teammate right there.
That's
Yeah.
the dream for someone to think you're good.
You think I'm good? Done taking classes.
Exactly. You're good. I think you're good.
I think you're good too. I think
Yeah.
you're nice, and I think you show up.
Oh, thank you. All three. Bum, bum, bum. You too.
We're gonna go ahead and transition over to our last segment, which is gonna be
Hot Improv Takes.
Are you familiar with this?
I mean, I see it every night.
Yeah.
But in the realm of this
Yeah.
discussion, I'm not familiar.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do like a rant, and we're just gonna talk about improv. So this is a trend that we want to see more of, less of. Or maybe
Oh, I
we
am
like it.
familiar. I saw this. Yeah.
And then we always just start off, hot improv take, and then we just go off on it for a bit.
Okay. Can you kick me off, and that'll get my brain going?
Yeah. I'll go first, then you can go.
Okay.
afterwards, okay.
All right, I already got one. Hot improv take. Cute's not funny. Like, just being cute on stage. Like, yeah, sure, it's silly and cute or whatever. But like, what is your take? What is your opinion on life? Like, I'm not learning anything. Just doing a cute, funny voice isn't making me look at society and deep within myself and think, oh yeah, I'm like that. Nah, it's just a voice.
All right. I like that. I think that's you see that a lot with people that have they gotten away with being cute.
Yeah.
They never like been vulnerable before.
Yeah, be vulnerable. Like,
Mhm.
don't just like defer to the thing that has always worked for you in your class, in your grad show. Like take a beat to like look at, like, think about like, well, what does it mean to be human? You
Mhm.
know, I think that I don't watch improv because like people are cute. I watch it because like it really it kind of exposes like how we are as humans, and like the hypocrisy of like how we portray ourselves versus like who we really are on the inside. You
Mhm.
know, I'm doing it right now in this interview. I'm presenting myself in the best way possible, but you don't see the bad parts of me or the parts of me that are insecure. We get to present those parts on stage. And that's how you like truly relate to people, because we're kind of exposing the stuff that we don't want to show.
Yeah.
Yeah, cute's a cop out.
Cute's a cop out. Yeah. So yeah, great. How to improv take. Really good. This is kind of a wild one, and you may disagree. People may disagree. Okay, but how to improv take. Don't whisper on stage. If you're gonna whisper, do a stage whisper. We got, depending on the house, we're talking, 50 to 100 people. They got to hear what you're trying to say. What you're doing is genuine and it is real, and people want to hear what you're saying, but you're not on camera. There's no guy turning up your microphone because there's no microphone. So say it out loud. I get it. You want to change the pace. You want to go easy. Just want to go for that like nice, soft little moment, but do a stage whisper or just say it out loud. I know it sounds unusual, but or unnatural, but just hey, I have a secret. I'm cheating on my wife.
Yeah.
Gotta do that. So that's my hot improv take.
That's a good one. It's the same thing with it's similar to being like, oh, I got you something too, and then you just fucking go quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Then you pimp your scene partner into making the move for you.
Yeah, or they're both. It's a lose-lose situation. Because you'd say, "Great, thank you. What is it?" Right?
Yeah,
and it makes us look like it takes us out of it because they're not really seeing it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, other lose situation, they say the wrong thing. Oh, cool, a new iPhone, thanks.
Yeah, it's like, no, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this. We just have one last part, which is just to have you plug anything away. I know you're an artist with many crafts, but
I usually don't plug things, but I think I will this time.
This is targeted towards improvisers. So
yeah.
This time.
So Lohan, that is my UCB Herald team. That's every other Monday night. I'm sure we're off for 3 weeks, so it's going to be interesting coming back after 3 weeks away. And then One Big Jam, that is every Sunday at 5:30. Come through if you are new to improv, if you are even experienced. Like, there's something you can get out of it, and you can also like take your experience and be generous too. So like, come through and like, let's see the new generation flourish. It's honestly like, it's a good show. Even if you don't do improv, just you can come watch. Like, some cool shit happens at the jam. It's kind of like its own thing now. It's really cool.
And can I say something just for people who maybe have like anxiety? Let's just explain the process. Everybody gets in line and they get into the theater. So it's like you're watching a show and you're in the audience.
Yeah.
And you can just sit in the audience all the time, but they ask who wants to come up and they raise your hand, and then randomly, right, you just pick people.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel ready to go up, keep your hand down and you can just continue to watch. If you feel ready, raise your hand. How many people do you pull from, like in each group?
It can range anywhere from 10. The highest is maybe like 18 people.
So it's not going to be as scary as you may seem.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you want to. Step out when you want to, and if you don't, you can stay in the back line the whole time.
And Herald Night, One Big Jam, and then the Shared Experience Studio. I teach a drop-in on Sundays from 2:30 to 4:30, right before the jam. So come through, reserve online at thesharedexperiencestudio.com. And we also have a show every Wednesday night. The Shared Experience show is at Lyric Hyperion. It's every Wednesday at 8 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. Tickets for each show are $5, and we have like really stacked good teams. So come check that out. I also just shot a short film with Mia Schaffler, directed by a very talented filmmaker named Kyle Kenyon. He also came from improv, and that should be coming out shortly. What else? I'm sure there's other things, but that's kind of like in the nearby scope right now.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks so much for stopping by. This is going to be a great episode, and thanks for sharing it all with us.
Yeah, this was so fun and easygoing. Thank you for having me.
Very chill. All right, we're like 3 beers in.
Yeah, I'm plastered.